Welcome. You've just arrived at the forgotten hour, a quiet corner of the night where history whispers and dreams unfold. If you're new here, we invite you to subscribe. Light a like if you enjoy peaceful journeys into the past. It helps us grow and helps others find a place to rest, just like you. Tonight's story is a gentle immersion into a moment of inspiration, a moment when poetry found its voice in the quiet heart of the mystic Rumi. There's no need to focus, no need to follow. Just close your eyes. Let the rhythm carry you. Let the calm surround you. The darkness before dawn wraps around you like a gentle shawl, soft and familiar. Your eyes open slowly, naturally, without urgency or need. The air in your chamber carries the faint scent of sandalwood, rising from the wooden prayer beads resting on your nightstand. This is Konya, in the year 1244, where the Anatolian plains stretch endlessly under starlight. The city sleeps, but your soul stirs, called by something deeper than wakefulness itself. You breathe, slowly, deeply. The wool carpet beneath your feet feels soft, worn smooth by countless nights of quiet wandering. Your white cotton robe, the kirka of the Sufi, hangs loosely around your shoulders. The fabric whispers against your skin, a gentle reminder of simplicity, of surrender. Outside your window, the muezzin's call has not yet begun. This is the hour of Sahar, the time before dawn, when the veil between worlds grows thin. Persian mystics have known this truth for centuries, that in these quiet moments, the heart opens like a flower, ready to receive. You move slowly, deliberately, toward the small wooden table where your oil lamp waits. The brass base gleams softly in the darkness, polished smooth by your own hands. You lift the glass chimney, strike flint against steel, and watch as the flame catches, grows, settles into steady light. The room fills with amber warmth. Your breathing deepens, naturally, effortlessly. The flame dances, never quite still, always moving in its own sacred rhythm. Persian poets have written of this dance, how fire mirrors the soul's eternal movement, always reaching, always returning to itself. You sit on the edge of your wooden bed, the frame carved from walnut trees that grew in the mountains of Cappadocia. The mattress, filled with sheep's wool and dried lavender, supports you gently. Your feet touch the carpet, feeling the intricate patterns woven by skilled hands in distant Isfahan. The threads of blue and gold telling stories of gardens, of rivers, of the endless sky. The silence around you is not empty, but full, pregnant with possibility. In this stillness, you remember the words of your teacher, Shams of Tabriz, who taught you that poems do not come from thinking, but from not thinking. They arise, he said, like water from a hidden spring, when the mind becomes as clear as mountain air. You close your eyes and breathe. The night air carries scents through your window, jasmine from the courtyard garden, wood smoke from distant hearths, the green sweetness of poplar leaves. These fragrances mingle in your awareness, becoming prayer without words, gratitude without form. Your hands rest gently on your knees, palms upward, open to receive. This is the posture of listening, of availability, that Persian mystics have practiced since the time of Hallaj, since the days when Baghdad was young and the world was closer to its source. The oil lamp flickers, casting shifting shadows on the wall. You watch these shadows dance, without grasping, without trying to understand. They move, they change, they disappear, only to be born again. Like thoughts, like feelings, like the verses that sometimes visit your heart in the deep hours of night. Tonight, something stirs in the darkness of your soul. Not a poem, not yet, but the fertile silence from which all poems grow. You feel it, like the first stirring of wind before dawn, like the earth's soft breathing before rain. Your heart knows, without knowing, that this night will be different. You rise slowly, gracefully, letting your body move like water, like the Euphrates River flowing toward the sea. The floorboards beneath your feet, made from cedar trees that once grew in the Lebanon mountains, creak softly, a familiar music that speaks of home, of belonging. The window calls to you. You approach and look out into the courtyard below. The fountain, built in the Persian style with intricate tile work, sits silent in the darkness. During the day, water flows from its center, creating music that the poets of Fars province have compared to the laughter of children, to the whisper of angels. But now, in this sacred hour, even the fountain rests. The garden beyond, planted with roses from Damascus, mint from the valleys of Persia, and fig trees whose ancestors grew in the gardens of Samarkand, sleeps in perfect peace. The leaves barely move, as if the earth itself holds its breath, waiting for the sun's first touch. You breathe, and the night breathes with you. Your awareness expands, gently, naturally, beyond the walls of your chamber, beyond the boundaries of your body. You feel yourself merging with the darkness, becoming one with the stillness that blankets the world. This is fana, the dissolution that Persian mystics speak of, not death, but a melting into the greater wholeness. The oil lamp continues its gentle dance. Its light illuminates your writing desk, where sheets of paper, made from cotton grown in the fertile valleys of Khwarezm, wait in patient readiness. Your reed pen, cut from the marshes of Mesopotamia, rests beside an inkwell of polished brass. These tools, simple and ancient, have served poets and mystics for generations. But tonight, they too must wait. For what wants to be born begins not with words, but with silence. Not with doing, but with being. In the lotus position, not with the way Sufi masters have sat for centuries in the tekkes of Konya, in the khanqahs of Nishapur, in the quiet corners of the world where seekers gather to remember their true nature. Your spine naturally erects like a cedar tree reaching toward heaven, while your roots, invisible but real, extend deep into the earth. This is the posture of balance, of receptivity, that allows the divine breath to flow freely through the corridors of your being. The flame flickers, grows steady, flickers again. You watch, without judgment, without desire for the flame to be other than it is. This watching, this gentle attention, is itself a form of prayer. Persian mystics call it muraqabah, the meditation of the heart, where the observer and the observed dissolve into pure awareness. Your breathing slows, deepens, becomes as natural as the tide, as rhythmic as the earth's rotation around its axis. Each breath, an invitation, each exhale, a surrender. The air flows through your nostrils, cool and clean, carrying the subtle essence of the night. In this stillness, memories arise, not as thoughts, but as fragrances, as textures, as the soft whisper of the past speaking to the present. You remember your childhood in Balkh, where the Hindu Kush mountains touched the sky, where your father, Bahauddin Walad, taught you the secret names of God in the ancient tongue of Persia. You remember the sound of his voice, deep and resonant, as he recited verses from the Quran in the pre-dawn darkness. You remember the long journey from Balkh to Konya, the caravans moving slowly, across the Anatolian plateau, the camels swaying like ships on a sea of grass, the merchants speaking Arabic, Persian, and Turkish, their voices creating a symphony of human longing, of seeking, of the eternal search for home. You remember your first sight of Konya, the city of the mystics, where the Seljuk sultans built mosques that reached toward heaven, where the markets overflowed with spices from India, carpets from Persia, and the wisdom of ages preserved in hand-copied manuscripts. But most clearly, you remember the day you met Shans. The memory comes not as a story, but as a feeling, a warmth that spreads through your chest like sunlight through water. His eyes, dark as the night sky, yet filled with stars. His voice, rough as mountain stone, yet gentle as a mother's lullaby. He taught you to listen, not with your ears, but with your whole being. To wait, not for something to happen, but for nothing to happen. To find, not by searching, but by becoming so still that what you seek finds you. The oil lamp sputters, almost goes out, then steadies again, like the heart, you think, always dying, always being reborn. This is the mystery that Persian poets have tried to capture for centuries, the paradox of existence, the dance between being and non-being, the eternal return to the source. You smile, softly, without reason. The smile comes from nowhere, belongs to no one, yet fills the entire room its gentle presence. This is the smile of the mystic, the expression of a soul at peace with its own mystery, content to be, without needing to become. The night deepens around you, like a great ocean, and you, like a pearl, rest in its depths, safe, protected, held by forces greater than understanding, older than time, more gentle than the first breath of spring. Your body begins to relax, muscles softening, tension dissolving. Like salt in warm water, like mist returning to the sky. The wool blanket, woven by women in the villages of Cappadocia, calls to you, inviting you to rest, to sleep, to dream. But not yet. Something whispers, wait, listen, be present to this moment, this breath, this heartbeat, this perfect stillness that contains all movement, is sacred darkness that gives birth to all light. You breathe, and the breath becomes prayer. You listen, and the listening becomes love. You wait, and the waiting becomes arrival. Your eyelids grow heavy, soft as flower petals, gentle as the first snow on the mountains of Persia. The candle flickers, dances, settles into deeper stillness. The room fills with peace, with the profound quiet that comes before dawn,
like a bird
before
returning
birth,
to its nest,
before the first
settles
word
into the
of a
warm
poem
darkness
that
of
will
approaching
change the
sleep.
world. The night embraces you, holds you, rocks you like a mother, like the earth itself, spinning gently through the star-filled sky. You drift, slowly, naturally, into a deep, restful sleep, where dreams and reality merge, where the poet and the poem become one, where the silence speaks, and the heart, finally, remembers its true name. The oil lamp burns on, steady and faithful, watching over your rest, keeping vigil in the darkness, until morning comes, and the world awakens, and the silence, at last, becomes song. You wake, again. But this time, your awakening is different. Gentler, like a flower opening to morning light, your consciousness unfolds slowly, naturally, without the sharp edges of ordinary waking. The oil lamp still burns, its flames smaller now, more intimate, like a friend keeping quiet company through the night. The air has changed, subtly, carrying new fragrances through your window. Rose water, distilled by the skilled perfumers of Kashan, drifts from the courtyard fountain. Someone, perhaps the garden keeper, has added petals to the water, an ancient Persian custom that transforms simple water into liquid poetry. You rise feeling your body as light as autumn leaves, as graceful as the calligraphy that flows from the pens of Isfahan's master scribes. Your feet, bare against the carpet, feel each thread, each pattern as if the weavers had embedded stories in the wool. Tales of distant mountains, of sheep grazing under endless ski. A window calls to you, as it did before. But now the darkness outside seems less dark, more transparent, as if the night itself were slowly awakening, preparing for its transformation into dawn. You approach the window and look out into the garden. The courtyard has changed, though nothing has moved. The fountain, still silent, seems to whisper secrets in the language of stone and water. The rose bushes, heavy with blooms that carry the genetic memory of gardens in Shiraz, appear to breathe, their leaves rising and falling in rhythm with your own breath. This is the garden of your madrasa, the school where you teach the wisdom of Islam, where young men come to learn the 99 names of God, the sacred mathematics of the Quran, the poetry of the prophets. But in this moment, it feels like Eden, like the first garden, where every plant, every stone, every drop of water speaks the original language of creation. You dress slowly, mindfully, wrapping your turban, the white cotton fabric soft against your scalp. The turban, wound in the traditional manner of Persian scholars, represents the crown of knowledge, the humility of the seeker, the dignity of one who has submitted to the divine will. Your robe, woven from wool that once warmed sheep in the highlands of Afghanistan, falls around your shoulders like a prayer. The fabric, dyed with indigo from plants grown in the valleys of Persia, carries the color of midnight sky, of deep water, of the infinite space between thoughts. You move toward the door, your hand resting on the brass handle, cool and smooth, worked by artisans in the workshops of Damascus. The metal, warmed by countless touches, seems to pulse with its own quiet life, like a heart beating in slow time. The door opens, silently, on hinges oiled with fat from olive trees that grow in the terraces of Syria. You step into the corridor, your footsteps muffled by runners of silk and wool, carpets that tell stories of caravans, of merchants, of the ancient trade routes that connected the world like veins in a vast body. The corridor, lined with niches containing oil lamps, stretches before you like a river of light. Each flame, steady and patient, casts shadows that dance on walls decorated with geometric patterns. Islamic art that speaks of the infinite, of the unity underlying all multiplicity, of the divine mathematics that governs the spin of atoms and the orbit of planets. You walk slowly, as if each step were a word in a prayer, each movement a verse in the great poem of existence. The floorboards, cedar and pine from the forests of the Black Sea, creak softly, a musical language that speaks of trees, of rain, of the patient growth that transforms seedlings into giants. At the end of the corridor, a wooden door, carved with verses from the Quran in the flowing script of Persian calligraphy, opens onto the garden. The Arabic letters, curves and dots that capture the breath of the divine, seem to move in the lamplight, as if the words themselves were alive, breathing, pulsing with the rhythm of revelation. You place your hand on the door and pause. Behind this door, you know, waits the garden where you have walked for years, where you have memorized the placement of every stone, the curve of every path, the scent of every flower. But tonight, you sense the garden has transformed itself, become a mirror, a reflection of the inner landscape where poems are born. The door opens, and you step into the night air. The garden receives you like a lover, like a mother, like the earth itself welcoming a seed. The air, cool and moist, carries the fragrances of jasmine, of mint, of the herbs that Persian physicians have used for centuries to heal the body, to calm the mind, to open the heart to divine presence. The paths, paved with stones from the quarries of Cappadocia, wind through the garden like the verses of a ghazal, each turn revealing new beauty, new mystery, new invitations to wonder. The stones, worn smooth by countless footsteps, reflect the starlight, creating a river of silver that leads deeper into the garden's heart. You begin to walk, following the path that leads to the fountain, but walking now with the slow, meditative pace of the mystic. Each step, a breath. Each breath, a prayer. Each prayer, a movement deeper into the mystery of being. The roses, planted in the Persian style, in raised beds that mirror the gardens of paradise described in the Quran, seem to glow in the darkness. Their petals, dark as wine, pale as moonlight, release fragrances that the poets of Shiraz have compared to the breath of angels, to the whisper of the beloved's name. You pause beside a rose bush and breathe deeply. The scent, complex and layered, carries notes of honey, of cloves, of the morning dew that forms on the mountains of Kashmir. This is the fragrance that Persian distillers capture in their rosewater, the essence that flavors the tea of mystics, the perfume that makes even the simplest prayer a work of art. A nightingale, hidden in the branches of a pomegranate tree, begins to sing. The sound, liquid and pure, rises into the night air like incense, like the voice of the soul calling to its source. Persian poets have written of this song for centuries. The bulbul's lament for the rose, the lover's cry for the beloved, the eternal music of separation and union. You listen, and in the listening, something shifts. The boundaries between listener and song, between observer and observed, begin to dissolve. You become the listening itself, the space in which the nightingale's voice can exist, the silence that gives birth to sound, the emptiness that contains all fullness. The fountain, still silent, draws you forward. The basin, carved from marble quarried in the mountains of Marmara, reflects the star-filled sky. The water, fed by springs that rise from deep aquifers beneath the Anatolian plateau, holds the light of distant suns, the memory of clouds, the dreams of the rain. You sit on the fountain's edge, the marble cool against your legs, and gaze into the water. In the reflection, you see your own face, but also, beneath it, other faces. The faces of poets who walked these paths before you, of mystics who sat by this fountain, of seekers who found in this garden what they had been searching for in the far corners of the world. The water, though still, seems to move, to flow, to carry messages between the depths and the surface, between the known and the unknown, between the world of forms and the formless realm from which all forms arise. You dip your fingers into the water, and the surface ripples, circles expanding outward, growing larger, more complex, until they reach the edges of the basin and disappear. Like thoughts, you realize, arising in the mind, expanding, interacting, finally dissolving back into the silence from which they came. The ripples settle. The water grows still, and again, the stars appear in its depths. You close your eyes and enter the inner garden. Here, in the landscape of the soul, the geography follows different laws. Time moves like honey, space curves like light, and the flowers that bloom here exist in no earthly season. This is the garden that Persian mystics have explored for centuries, the realm where the poet meets the poem, where the lover encounters the beloved, where the seeker finally finds. In this inner garden, you walk paths made of crystallized breath, through groves of trees whose leaves are verses from the Quran, beside streams that flow with liquid light, carrying the dissolved essence of all prayers ever offered, all tears ever shed, fed by springs that rise from the center of being, from the source that has no beginning, no end, only the eternal now of its own infinite giving. You sit beside this inner fountain and drink the water, tasting of starlight, of the first rain, of the breath of the beloved, flows through your being, washing away the residue of the day, the accumulated dust of thinking, the tired patterns of the ego's endless commentary. Refreshed, renewed, you continue walking through the inner garden. Here, the roses are made of condensed longing, their fragrance the essence of all seeking, their thorns the sweet pain of love. The nightingales, singing in languages that existed before words, tell stories of the soul's journey, of its exile from the source, of its eternal return. You come to a clearing where the inner and outer gardens meet. Opening your eyes, you find yourself still sitting by the fountain. But now, the garden around you seems transformed. The roses, those still roses, pulse with inner light. The paths, though still stone, seem to lead not just through space, but through time, through the layers of being, through the veils that separate the heart from its own truth. The night air, moving gently through the garden, carries whispers, fragments of poems not yet written, verses that exist in the realm of pure potential, waiting for the right moment, the right heart, the right silence to clothe themselves in words. You stand and begin to walk again, but now your walking is different, more like floating, like moving through water, through the thick, sweet air of dreams. Each step, a dance, each breath, a song, each moment, a doorway opening onto eternity. The garden paths, familiar yet strange, lead you through landscapes that exist simultaneously in the physical world and in the realm of imagination. You pass herb gardens, where mint and basil, rosemary and thyme grow in patterns that mirror the sacred geometry of Islamic art, where the fragrance of each plant, carefully cultivated by generations of Persian gardeners, speaks of healing, of wholeness, of the divine names hidden in the heart of matter. You walk past arbors where grapevines, descendants of vines that once grew in the gardens of Shiraz, create tunnels of green shadow, spaces where the light, filtered through leaves, becomes soft, gentle, like the light of the inner world, where harsh edges dissolve, where everything becomes possible. The irrigation channels, following the ancient Persian system of qanats, carry water from hidden springs through underground passages, emerging in the garden as small streams that murmur secrets, that speak of the dark journey through earth, of the patience required for water to find its way to light. You kneel beside one of these streams and listen. The water, flowing over stones worn smooth by centuries of passage, creates music, a liquid symphony that Persian poets have tried to capture in their verses. The sound, neither quite music nor quite speech, speaks of flow, of surrender, of the way that yields to the way, of the path that opens before those who know how to follow. Standing, you continue your walk, drawn now toward the deeper parts of the garden, where the paths become narrower, more winding, where the cultivated gradually gives way to the wild, where the garden reveals its deeper nature, its connection to the vast wilderness of the soul. Here, pomegranate trees, their fruits swollen with juice that tastes of rubies, of compressed sunlight, of the sweetness that comes after patience, grow beside fig trees whose leaves, broad and protective, once sheltered the first humans, whose fruits, tender and mysterious, speak of ancient wisdom, of the knowledge that comes through tasting rather than thinking. The path, now barely visible, leads through a grove of walnut trees, their trunks massive, their branches reaching toward the star-filled sky. These trees, planted by the scholars who built this madrasa, have witnessed centuries of seekers, of students, of poets, of those who came looking for knowledge and found instead mystery. You place your hand on the bark of one of these ancient trees and feel the slow, deep, patient life of the tree, its roots reaching down into the earth, its branches reaching up toward heaven, its heartwood, dense with accumulated years, holding the memory of every season, every storm, every moment of sunlight it has ever received. In touching the tree, you touch time itself. Feel the great rhythms of growth and rest, of flowering and fruiting, of the cycles that govern all life, that connect the smallest seed to the largest star, that reveal the unity underlying all apparent diversity. The tree, in its patient standing, its acceptance of weather, its faithful return to life each spring, becomes a teacher, a reminder of the qualities the mystic must cultivate: rootedness and aspiration, stability and growth, the ability to bend without breaking, to give without depleting. You release your hand from the bark and continue walking. The path now leads upward toward a small hill that rises at the garden's heart, where a pavilion, built in the Persian style with pointed arches and intricate tilework, offers a place of rest, of contemplation, of the kind of solitude that is not loneliness but fullness. As you climb, the garden spreads below you, revealing its hidden order, its sacred geometry, the way each element, each plant, each stone, each stream participates in a greater pattern, a design that speaks of the divine artist, of the intelligence that moves through all things, creating beauty, creating meaning, creating the endless variations on the theme of love. From this height, you can see the entire garden, but also, beyond its walls, the sleeping city of Konya. The houses where families rest, the mosques where the faithful will gather for morning prayers, the markets where merchants dream of distant lands, the workshops where artisans, even in sleep, continue their dialogue with beauty. The pavilion, when you reach it, welcomes you with its cool shadows, its carved columns, its domed ceiling painted with stars that mirror the real stars shining overhead. This is a place where the earthly and the celestial meet, where the horizontal and the vertical intersect, where the soul, for a moment, can rest in the center of the cross of existence. You sit on the marble bench, worn smooth by countless sitters, and breathe. The air, at this height, seems thinner, more transparent, like the air of high mountains, where the sky comes closer, where the boundary between earth and heaven becomes permeable. Your breathing, naturally, becomes slower, deeper, more spacious, as if your lungs were learning to breathe sky instead of air. From the pavilion, you can see the entire pattern of the garden. The way the paths converge and diverge, the way the water flows, the way the plants, in their seeming randomness, actually follow laws of harmony, of proportion, of the golden ratio that governs the spiral of shells, the arrangement of leaves, the structure of galaxies. This is the garden of the mind, you realize, the landscape of consciousness, where thoughts arise like flowers, where emotions flow like streams, where the deep currents of being, usually hidden, reveal themselves to the patient observer, to the one who knows how to look without grasping, how to see without judging, how to be present without interfering. The nightingale, still singing in the pomegranate tree, now seems to be singing directly to you, its voice carrying across the garden, across the centuries, across the infinite space between souls, reminding you that you are not alone, that the song you hear is also the song you are, the music of being, playing itself through the instrument of existence. You close your eyes and let the song fill you. The melody, wordless yet full of meaning, speaks of longing, of the pain that is also pleasure, of the separation that is also union, of the way the soul, in its very crying out, already contains what it seeks, already is what it longs to become. The song, flowing through your being, begins to change you, to tune your inner strings, to harmonize the discord of daily life, to restore the original song, the primordial music that played when the world was young, when the first word was spoken, when light first separated from darkness. Gradually, the nightingale's song and your own breathing, your own heartbeat, begin to synchronize, to merge, to become one rhythm, one melody, one seamless flow of being. You are no longer listening to the song. You are the song. You are the silence in which the song can exist. You are the ear that hears, the voice that sings, the space in which hearing and singing become one. The garden, in this moment, reveals its deepest secret. It is not a place, but a state of being, not a location in space, but a quality of attention, not something outside you, but the very nature of your own heart, when it opens, when it remembers, when it returns to its original simplicity, its natural state of wonder, of gratitude, of love. You open your eyes and see the garden with new sight. Everything, the roses, the fountain, the trees, the streams, the very air itself, pulses with inner light, with the radiance of being, with the joy of existence. The boundaries between self and world, between observer and observed, between the one who walks and the garden that recedes, dissolve, reveal themselves as temporary, as conventions, as the playful divisions that consciousness creates in order to experience itself, to know itself, to celebrate itself. You stand and begin to walk back toward the house, but now every step is a blessing, every breath a prayer, every moment a gift received, a gift given, a gift shared with the entire universe, which is also, you now remember, also you. The path leading back seems shorter, more direct, as if the garden itself were helping you, guiding you, supporting your return to the world of forms, while holding you, always, in its formless embrace. As you near the house, you turn for one last look at the garden. In the growing light, the first hint of dawn, the roses seem to glow from within. The fountain begins to catch the early light. The trees, rooted in earth, but reaching toward heaven, stand like prayers made visible, like the vertical dimension of being, always present, always available, always calling the horizontal world back to its source. The garden, you realize, will always be here, not just as a place you can visit, but as a state of being you can inhabit, a quality of attention you can cultivate, a way of seeing, of being, of loving, that transforms every moment, every encounter, every breath, into a doorway, into an invitation, into a homecoming. You turn toward the house, carrying the garden within you, feeling its fountains flowing in your veins, its roses blooming in your heart. its songs playing in the depths of your soul, knowing that wherever you go, whatever you do, however the outer world may change, the inner garden, the garden of the heart, will always be. Your eyelids grow heavy, soft as the morning mist, gentle as the dew forming on the rose petals. The night sky, slowly lightening, holds you in its vast embrace. Your body, walking slowly toward rest, moves like a prayer, deep, restful sleep, where the garden continues to bloom, where the nightingale continues to sing, where the fountain, forever, flows with the water of life, the nectar of being, the endless, inexhaustible love. You wake, and this time, your awakening feels like arriving, as if all the other wakings, all the other nights, all the other moments of consciousness have been preparing you for this one. The oil lamp, somehow, burns brighter now, its flame steady and golden, like the sun of the inner world, where seasons change not according to time, but according to the depth it's seeing. The air in your chamber, charged with possibility, carries scents that speak of ceremony, of ritual, of the sacred preparations that transform simple actions into doorways. Rose petals, dried and ground by the skilled hands of Isfahan's perfumers, mingle with the woody fragrance of sandalwood, with the clean scent of mint freshly picked from the garden. You rise, and your rising feels like a dance, like the natural movement of flame toward sky, of water toward sea, of the soul toward its source. Your body, light as the morning air, moves with the grace of long practice, with the fluidity that comes when the ego stops directing and allows the deeper intelligence to guide. The window, glowing now with the first hint of dawn, calls you not to look out, but to look in, to see through the outer light to the inner illumination, to recognize the dawn that is always breaking, has always been breaking, in the depths of your own being. You approach the window and see a garden, transformed by the approaching dawn, exists now in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The physical garden, with its roses and fountains, its paths and trees, remains, but superimposed upon it, or perhaps underlying it, is another garden made of crystallized light, of condensed prayer, of the substance of dreams made visible. In this luminous garden, the roses are made of compressed longing, their petals formed from the sighs of lovers, their fragrance the essence of all yearning, of all reaching toward the beloved. The fountain, flowing now with liquid light, speaks in the language of the heart. Its music, the sound of the soul recognizing itself, coming home to itself after long exile. But this morning, something calls you away from the window, toward the small alcove where you keep your tea service, where the rituals of hospitality, elevated to sacred art by centuries of Persian culture, become a form of prayer, a way of honoring the divine guest who arrives always in the form of the present moment. You move toward the alcove and begin the ceremony. The tea service, inherited from your father, crafted by artisans in the workshops of Herat, waits in readiness. The brass samovar, its surface polished to mirror brightness, reflects the lamp flame, multiplying the light, creating a constellation of small suns that dance as you move. The glasses, delicate as flower petals, thin as the membrane between worlds, catch and hold the light, transforming it into prisms, into rainbows, into the visible spectrum of divine joy. You fill the samovar with water, drawn from the deep well that taps the aquifers beneath Konya, water that has traveled for centuries through the earth's dark passages, gathering minerals, gathering memory, gathering the patient wisdom of stone. The water, clear as mountain air, pure as the first moment of creation, accepts the flame, begins its slow transformation, its journey from liquid to vapor, from form to formlessness, from the visible to the invisible. While the water heats, you prepare the tea. The leaves, dried and cured according to methods perfected in the mountains of Ceylon, in the terraced gardens of China, in the hidden valleys where tea masters guard their secrets, like mystics guard their insights, rest in a small silver box. You lift the lid and breathe in the fragrance, complex and layered, speaking of earth and rain, of sun and shadow, of the patient alchemy that transforms the simple leaf into the drink of contemplation. You measure the tea not with scales, but with the intuitive precision of long practice, with the inner knowing that comes when the hands learn to serve the heart, when the ritual becomes so deeply internalized that it moves beyond technique, becomes pure expression, becomes prayer made visible. The tea, dark and fragrant, falls into the small brass pot, each leaf carrying the memory of monsoon rains, of morning mist, of the hands that plucked it, of the gardens where it grew, of the ancient dialogue between earth and sky that produces all nourishment, all sustenance, all the gifts that allow life to flourish. The water, now singing in the samovar, begins to release its steam, its breath, its essence rising toward the heavens like the prayers of the faithful, like the incense that carries human longing to the divine ear, like the soul itself in its eternal aspiration, its endless reaching toward the source. You pour the water, hot and pure, over the tea leaves and watch as they unfold, as they release their color, their flavor, their accumulated essence into the waiting water. This is the moment of transformation, of alchemy, when the separate becomes one, when the many becomes the one, when the individual drops of being merge into the ocean of consciousness. The tea steeps, and you wait. This waiting, this patient attendance is itself a form of meditation, a practice of presence, a way of honoring the rhythms of becoming, the natural timing that governs all authentic transformation. You cannot rush the tea, cannot force the leaves to give up their essence, can only provide the right conditions, the proper temperature, the adequate time, and then wait, in a state of receptive availability. As you wait, you arrange the other elements of the ceremony. The sugar, crystallized sweetness that dissolves the bitter, that balances the astringent, that represents the divine mercy that sweetens even the most difficult experiences, the grace that makes all suffering bearable, all learning possible. The sugar, formed from the juice of cane that grew in the fertile valleys of Khuzestan, carries the concentrated energy of sun, of earth, of the patient process that transforms the raw into the refined. A small spoon, silver worked by craftsmen in the bazaars of Damascus, polished smooth by countless stirrings, by the repeated gesture of mixing, of blending, of creating harmony from diversity. The spoon, curved like the crescent moon, like the arch of the mihrab, like the natural curve of the palm in prayer, fits perfectly in your hand, becomes an extension of your intention, of your desire to serve, to offer, to share. The glasses, arranged in a circle on the brass tray, wait like empty hearts, ready to receive, to hold, to contain the gift of the present moment. Each glass, blown by master glaziers in the workshops of Aleppo, shaped by breath, by fire, by the skilled hands of those who know how to transform sand into transparency, into vessels capable of holding light. The tea, now ready, pours from the pot in a golden stream, filling each glass with liquid amber, with concentrated sunshine, with the essence of the earth's patience, of the sky's generosity, of the marriage between above and below that creates all beauty, all nourishment, all the gifts that sustain life. You lift the first glass and breathe in the fragrance. The steam rising from the tea carries not just scent but memory, not just flavor but story. You smell the mountains where the tea grew, the hands that picked it, the fires that dried it, the long journey that brought it to this moment, to this cup, to this breath, to this perfect convergence of elements that creates the possibility of sharing, of communion, of the sacred act of drinking together.
Subtle but unmistakable.
But tonight,
that fills the
this
chamber,
dawn, that sits across from you, that waits with infinite patience for the tea to be served, for the ceremony to unfold, for the moment when the visible and invisible worlds meet, in the simple act of sharing tea, of offering hospitality, of recognizing the divine guest who arrives, always in the form of the present moment. This presence, neither male nor female, neither young nor old, neither familiar nor strange, seems to emerge from the tea itself, from the steam, from the golden light reflected in the glass, from the space between thoughts, from the silence between breaths, from the eternal now that exists in the heart of every moment. You pour a second glass and place it across from you on the small wooden table, carved with verses from the Quran, inlaid with mother of pearl that catches the lamplight, that reflects the tea's golden glow, that creates a bridge between the earthly and the celestial, between the temporal and the eternal. The guest, though invisible, is unmistakably present. You feel the weight of this presence, not heavy, but substantial, like the weight of love, of understanding, of the kind of attention that sees everything, judges nothing, accepts all, transforms all by the simple act of witnessing, of being present, of receiving whatever is offered with gratitude, with grace, with the infinite patience of the eternal. You lift your glass, and the guest somehow lifts theirs. The tea, sipped slowly, mindfully, becomes a form of communion, of shared silence, of the kind of conversation that happens without words, where understanding flows directly, from heart to heart, from essence to essence, from the deep place in you that knows, to the deep place in the guest that recognizes, that remembers, that has always known. The first sip, warm and complex, floods your awareness with layers of meaning, with the taste of the guest, though silent, seems to speak, not in words, but in the quality of presence, in the depth of attention, in the way the silence itself becomes pregnant with meaning, with possibility, with the kind of love that needs no expression, that is complete in itself, that transforms everything it touches simply by being what it is. Who are you, you ask? Not with your voice, but with your being, with the question that arises from the depths of your soul, from the place where all real questions are born, where all true answers are received. The guest, smiling without a face, laughing without a voice, responds with the kind of silence that is more eloquent than speech, that contains all possible answers. You drink again, and in the drinking, begin to understand. The guest is not other, is not separate, is not visiting from some distant realm. The guest is the eternal aspect of your own being, the part of you that never comes, never goes, never changes. The witness consciousness that observes all experiences, all thoughts, all emotions, all the coming and going of phenomena, while remaining itself untouched, unchanged, eternally present. The tea, shared with this inner guest, becomes a form of self-recognition, of coming home to yourself, of remembering what you have always been beneath the surface identity, beneath the story of the separate self, beneath the dream of exile, of seeking, of the long journey that ends, always where it began, in the heart of your own being. I have been waiting for you, the guest seems to say. For so long, through so many lifetimes, through so many dreams, through so many forgettings and rememberings, waiting for you to stop, to sit, to pour the tea, to recognize me, to remember that I am not other, that I am the deepest part of yourself, the part that has never left, that has always been here, that will always be here, waiting with infinite patience for you to come home. You drink, and the tea becomes tears, tears of recognition, of relief, of the kind of joy that comes when the long search ends, when the seeker realizes they were never lost, when the lover discovers the beloved has always been here, has always beenness, has always been the very seeking itself, the very longing, a very love. The guest, reaching across the table, touches your hand. The touch, though invisible, is unmistakably real, warm as sunlight, gentle as the first breath of spring, familiar as your own heartbeat. In this touch, you feel the love that has always been waiting, the acceptance that has never wavered, the presence that has accompanied you through every moment, every experience, every apparent separation, every return. You are not alone, the touch says. You have never been alone. You cannot be alone. Because I am here, because I am you, because the one who seeks and the one who is sought, the one who loves and the one who is loved, the one who drinks and the one who is drunk, are one, have always been one, will always be one. You close your eyes and feel the presence more clearly. It fills the chamber, fills your body, fills your awareness, not as an intrusion, but as a recognition, as a remembering, as the return to your natural state, your original nature, your true identity, which is not separate, not isolated, not alone, but intimately connected to all that is, part of the one fabric, the one consciousness, the one love, expressing itself as the many, as the universe, as you. The tea, cooling in your glass, reflects the oil lamp flame, creating a small sun, a miniature star, a point of light that seems to contain all lights, all flames, all the illumination that has ever existed, that will ever exist, concentrated in this moment, in this cup, in this breath, in this perfect convergence of the temporal and the eternal. You open your eyes and see the guest more clearly, form, shifting like smoke, like light on water, like the play of shadows and illumination, sometimes appears as your teacher, Shams, his dark eyes holding the depth of the night sky, his voice rough with the wisdom of the desert, his presence a doorway into the infinite. Sometimes as your father, Bahauddin, his gentle hands blessing your head, his voice reciting the names of God, his love a bridge between the world of forms and the formless realm. Sometimes the guest appears as the prophet, peace be upon him, his face radiant with the light of revelation, his presence a reminder of the divine possibility that exists within every human heart, the capacity for surrender, for service, for becoming a clear channel for the divine will, the divine love, the divine mercy. And sometimes, most clearly, the guest appears as the friend, the beloved, the one for whom all seeking exists, the one whose absence creates all longing, whose presence fulfills all desire, whose love is the beginning and end of all poetry, all mysticism, all the reaching of the human heart toward its source. But always, beneath all these forms, the guest is you, the eternal you, the essential you, the you that exists before birth, after death, between thoughts, in the space of pure awareness, in the silence of the heart, in the stillness that is always available, always present, always waiting for recognition. You drink the last of your tea, and the guest drinks theirs. The ceremony, complete, leaves you not empty, but full. Not finished, but begun. Not ended, but initiated into a deeper understanding, a more intimate relationship with the mystery of your own being, always available, always ready to share tea, to share silence, to share the inexhaustible love that is your deepest nature. The glass is empty now. Reflect the lamp flame, creating circles of light, mandalas of illumination that seem to pulse with their own life, their own rhythm, their own joy. The tea service, used and blessed, carries the memory of this sharing, this communion, this recognition that transforms the simple act of drinking tea into a sacrament, into a celebration, into a remembrance of what is always true. You begin to clear the tea service, but slowly, mindfully, with the awareness that every gesture, every movement, every moment of attention is itself a prayer, a offering, a way of honoring the presence that has revealed itself, that has always been here, that will always be here, waiting with infinite patience for the next invitation, the next recognition, the next moment of communion. The guest, though fading from visible awareness, remains, not as a memory, but as a living presence, as the background awareness in which all experiences arise, as the space in which all phenomena appear, as the silence in which all sounds exist, as the stillness in which all movement happens, as the love in which all seeking finds its fulfillment. You return to your bed, carrying the presence with you, feeling the guest not as other, but as the deepest part of yourself, the part that is always at peace, always at home, always in communion with the source, always drinking from the inexhaustible well of being, always sharing tea with the eternal, always recognizing, always remembering, always loving. The oil lamp, burning lower now, creates softer shadows, gentler light, more intimate illumination. The chamber, blessed by the presence, by the sharing, by the recognition, seems to glow from within, to pulse with the rhythm of the heart, to breathe with the breath of the beloved, to exist in the eternal now where all tea ceremonies, all communions, all recognitions happen simultaneously, always, forever, in the timeless moment of pure being. You lie down and close your eyes, feeling the guest settling beside you, not as a separate presence, but as the awareness in which sleep and waking, dreaming and awakening, seeking and finding, all appear and disappear, all arise and dissolve, all dance their eternal dance, in the space of pure consciousness, in the silence of the heart, in the stillness that is always here, always now, always you. The presence, intimate as your own breath, gentle as your own heartbeat, whispers without words, sings without voice, loves without object. The eternal lullaby, the original song, the first and last word that carries you gently, naturally, into the deep, restful sleep where the guest and the host, the lover and the beloved, the seeker and the sought, merge into one. Your eyelids grow heavy, soft as rose petals, gentle as the morning dew, and the presence, the eternal guest, settles into your heart, not as visitor, but as the very essence of what you are, the deepest truth of your being, the love that you are, the peace that you are, the home that you have always been and will always be. You drift, naturally, easily, into deep, restful sleep, where the tea ceremony continues, where the guest is always present, where the communion never ends, where the love forever flows like tea, like grace, like the endless, inexhaustible gift of being, of consciousness, of the One, appearing as the many, returning to the One in the eternal, sacred dance of existence. You wake into a world transformed by light. The chamber, no longer lit only by the oil lamp, now glows with the soft radiance of early dawn. Through the window, streams of golden light, gentle as honey, warm as the breath of the beloved, flow across the floor, across the walls, across your skin, carrying the promise of a new day, of fresh possibilities, of the eternal renewal that comes with each sunrise. The light, filtered through the jacaranda tree outside your window, creates patterns on the chamber walls, shifting geometries of shadow and illumination that move like living calligraphy, like verses from the Quran written in light and darkness, like the divine names dancing in the language of dawn. You rise, and your body feels lighter still, as if the night's journey, the walks through the garden, the tea ceremony with the eternal guest, have gradually dissolved the heaviness of ordinary existence, have attuned you to the subtle frequencies of the inner world, have prepared you for what comes next. The jacaranda tree, its branches heavy with purple blossoms, calls to you through the window. This tree, planted by the scholars who built this madrasa, has stood for decades, its roots deep in the earth, its crown reaching toward heaven, its seasonal blooming a reminder of the cycles of death and rebirth, of the eternal return of beauty, of the way life continuously renews itself, offers itself, celebrates itself. You dress, wrapping your white robe around you like a prayer, like a covenant with the dawn, like the visible sign of your inner purification. The fabric, woven from cotton grown in the valleys of Egypt, blessed by the hands of the faithful, carries the softness of surrender, the simplicity of the true seeker, the elegance of the soul that has learned to travel light. The door, opening silently, reveals a corridor transformed by the morning light. The geometric patterns on the walls, Islamic art that speaks of the infinite, of the unity underlying all multiplicity, seem to pulse with their own inner radiance, to breathe with the rhythm of the dawn, to celebrate the marriage of earth and sky, of the finite and the infinite, of the human and the divine. You walk, slowly, meditatively, toward the garden door, but now your walking has the quality of pilgrimage, of sacred journey, of the soul moving toward its destined encounter with beauty, with truth, with the moment when all seeking culminates in finding, when all longing resolves in recognition, when all separation dissolves in union. The garden door, carved with verses that speak of paradise, of the garden's promise to the faithful, of the eternal reward that awaits those who surrender, opens onto a world made new by light, by the alchemy of dawn, by the daily miracle of the sun's return. You step into the garden and are greeted by a symphony of awakening. A fountain, now flowing with water that catches and scatters the early light, creates music that seems to come from the source of all music, from the place where sound and silence, where movement and stillness, where the finite and the infinite meet and merge and celebrate their eternal dance. The roses, opening their petals to the dawn, release fragrances that carry the essence of the divine names, each scent a quality of the beloved, each fragrance a doorway into the infinite, each breath a moment of communion with the source of all beauty, all joy, all love. The birds, returning to life with the sun, create choruses that Persian poets have compared to the voices of angels, to the music of the spheres, to the eternal song. It celebrates the glory of existence, the wonder of being, the miracle of consciousness awakening to itself. But today, your attention is drawn particularly to the jacaranda tree. Standing at the garden's heart, its trunk thick with age, its branches spread wide like arms embracing the sky. The tree seems to call to you with a voice older than words, deeper than thought, more intimate than your own heartbeat. The purple blossoms, countless thousands of them, create a canopy of living color, a ceiling of beauty that transforms the space beneath into a natural cathedral, a temple built by the divine architect for the worship of wonder. You approach the tree and feel its presence, ancient, patient, wise with the accumulated knowledge of seasons, of storms, of the endless cycle of growth and rest, of flowering and fruiting, of the deep rhythms that govern all life, that connect the smallest seed to the vastest star, that reveal the unity, a sanctuary within the garden, a place apart where the intense light of the sun, filtered through layers of purple blossoms, becomes gentle, becomes healing, becomes the perfect illumination for the inner work, for the quiet contemplation, for the kind of seeing that happens when the outer eye grows soft and the inner eye begins to open. You sit, placing your back against the trunk, feeling the rough bark, the solid strength, the patient endurance of the tree. The trunk, wider than your arms can embrace, holds the memory of every season, every storm, every moment of sunlight it has ever received, every bird that has nested in its branches, every human who has sought shelter in its shade. Leaning against the tree, you feel yourself becoming part of its stillness, its rootedness, its natural meditation. In its simple being, in its acceptance of whatever comes, in its faithful return to life each spring, becomes a teacher, a reminder of the qualities the mystic must cultivate: patience, endurance, the ability to bend without breaking, to give without depleting. The blossoms, falling occasionally, drift down like purple snow, like blessings, like the gentle rain of grace that falls continuously, invisibly, on all who know how to receive. Each fallen blossom, perfect in its impermanence, beautiful in its brief existence, speaks of the way all beauty, all life, all love is both eternal and momentary, both infinite and intimate, both beyond time and completely present in time. You close your eyes and enter the deeper sanctuary. Here, in the space between thoughts, in the silence between breaths, in the stillness that exists at the heart of all movement, you find the inner jacaranda, the tree of consciousness, whose roots reach down into the infinite depths, whose branches extend into the infinite heights, whose blossoms are the thoughts, the feelings, the experiences that arise and pass away in the eternal space of awareness. This inner tree, you realize, is not separate from the outer tree, is not different from the consciousness that observes it, is not other than the awareness in which all trees, all thoughts, all experiences, all worlds appear and disappear, arise and dissolve, dance their eternal dance in the space of pure being. Sitting in this double shade, physical and metaphysical, temporal and eternal, you feel the boundaries of identity, of separation, of the sense of being a separate self, beginning to soften, to dissolve, to reveal themselves as temporary, as constructions, as the playful divisions that consciousness creates in order to experience itself, to know itself, to celebrate itself. The purple blossoms, falling more frequently now, seem to carry messages, not in words, but in the quality of their movement, in the grace of their descent, in the way they surrender to gravity, to earth, to the natural law that governs all falling, all returning, all the movements of love toward the beloved, toward the source, toward the heart of what is. You open your eyes and see the garden with new sight. Everything, the roses, the fountain, the paths, the very air itself, seems to pulse with the same consciousness, the same awareness, the same love that looks out through your eyes, that breathes through your lungs, that beats in your heart, that moves through your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, like wind through leaves, like light through water, like the beloved, moving through the forms of the world, in an endless dance of recognition, of celebration, of love. A blossom, falling directly toward you, lands in your open palm. The flower, perfect in its 5-petaled simplicity, soft as velvet, fragrant as distilled prayer, rests in your hand like a message, like a gift, like a direct transmission from the heart of beauty to the heart of the one who receives, who recognizes the scent, complex and subtle, carries notes of honey, of the earth after rain, of the particular sweetness that comes from the marriage of sun and soil, of the patient alchemy that transforms the simple into the sublime, the ordinary into the sacred, the temporal into the eternal. Breathing the fragrance, you feel it moving through your being, not just through your nose, but through your entire body, your entire consciousness, awakening cells, awakening memories, awakening the deep recognition that you are not separate from this beauty, are not other than this fragrance, are not different from this moment of perfect reception, of pure gift, of the beloved offering itself as the world, as experience, as the very breath you breathe. The blossom held in your palm begins to change, not wilting, not dying, but transforming, becoming more transparent, more luminous, more obviously what it has always been: condensed light, crystallized love, the visible form of the invisible grace that moves through all things, that creates all things, that is all things, appearing as the many while remaining always the one. You close your palm gently around the blossom and feel it dissolving, not disappearing, but merging together, becoming part of your own being, part of your own essence, part of the one consciousness that wears all forms, that appears as all experiences, that loves itself as the lover, as the beloved, as the love that connects and encompasses, and ultimately is all that is. Opening your palm, you find it empty, but not empty, full of the invisible presence, full of the essence that was never contained by the form, that was never limited by the appearance, that was always, is always, will always be the one reality, appearing as the many, returning to the one in the eternal play of consciousness with itself. The tree, sensing your recognition, your understanding, your readiness, begins to share its deeper teaching, not in words, but in the quality of its presence, in the depth of its silence, in the way it simply is, without trying to be, without needing to become, without seeking to go anywhere, or to be other than what it is, in this moment, in this place, in this eternal now, where all seeking ends, where all finding begins, where all love recognizes itself. Sitting against the trunk, you feel the tree's rootedness, its connection to the earth, to the deep waters, to the mineral wisdom, to the dark intelligence. It supports all growth, all flowering, all the reaching toward light that characterizes all life, all seeking, all love. The roots, invisible but essential, speak of the hidden foundations, the unseen support, the invisible grace that makes all visible beauty possible. And reaching upward, you feel the tree's aspiration, its natural movement toward the sun, toward the light, toward the source that draws all life, all seeking, all love in the eternal dance of return, of recognition, of the many, discovering their unity, their source, their home in the one. The branches, spreading wide, create a mandala of growth, a sacred geometry that speaks of the way consciousness, expanding from its center, reaches out to embrace, to include, to encompass all of existence, all of experience, all of life, in the one heart, the one awareness, the one love that is the truth of what you are, of what everything is, of what has always been, will always be. The blossoms, countless in their number, each one unique, each one a gentle whisper, a soft promise of peace and harmony, of gentle growth and endless love, each one perfect, each one a complete expression of the one life, the one consciousness, the one love that appears as the many while remaining always the one. Speak of the infinite creativity, the endless diversity, the inexhaustible abundance of the divine, of the source, of the beloved, who creates, who loves, who gives, without limit, without reservation, without end. You breathe and feel yourself breathing with the tree, breathing with the earth, breathing with the sky, breathing with the universe, breathing with the one breath that breathes all beings, that moves all life, that is all life, appearing as the many, while remaining always the one who breathes, who lives, who loves, who is what you are, what everything is, what has always been, will always be. The morning light, growing stronger, begins to penetrate even the dense canopy, creating shafts of golden illumination that seem to descend from heaven, to connect earth and sky, to reveal the unity, the continuity, the seamless wholeness that encompasses all apparent diversity, all seeming separation, all the play of form in the formless, of the many in the one. In one of these shafts of light, you see, or think you see, or remember seeing, a figure, translucent, luminous, familiar yet strange, approaching through the garden, walking not on the paths, but on the light itself, moving not through space, but through the dimensions of the heart, coming not from outside, but from the deepest interior, from the place where all meetings, all recognitions, all love happens. The figure, as it draws nearer, becomes more recognizable, more obviously, the one you have been seeking, the one who has been seeking you, the one who is neither seeker nor sought, but the seeking itself, the love itself, the recognition itself, that connects, that unifies, that reveals the truth of what is, what has always been, what will always be. Shams, your beloved teacher, your guide, your mirror, your own deepest self, approaches through the shaft of light, his form made of condensed awareness, his presence a doorway into the infinite, into the eternal, into the place where all questions are answered, where all seeking ends, where all love recognizes itself. He sits, without sitting, across from you, his eyes dark as the night sky, yet full of stars, full of light, full of the love that creates all worlds, that sustains all life, that is all life, appearing as the teacher, as the student, as the teaching, as the learning, as the love that encompasses, that transcends, that is all that is. You have been preparing, he says, without words, with the voice that speaks directly to the heart, to the soul, to the place where all understanding happens, where all recognition occurs, where all love remembers itself. All the walking, all the tea, all the sitting, all the seeing has been preparing you for this moment, for this recognition, for this birth of the poem that you are, that you have always been, that you will always be. You nod. Understanding without understanding, knowing without knowing, recognizing without recognizing, the paradox, the mystery, the simplicity that lies at the heart of all seeking, all finding, all love, all truth, all being, all becoming, all the eternal dance of consciousness with itself. The poem, he continues, is not something you write, but something you are, not something you create, but something you discover, not something you make, but something you become when you stop trying to be someone else, something else, somewhere else, and simply allow yourself to be what you have always been, what you are, what you will always be. The tree, listening to this teaching, this transmission, this recognition, begins to flower more intensely, more abundantly, more obviously, as if the very presence of this truth, this love, this recognition catalyzes, accelerates, celebrates the natural flowering of consciousness, of beauty, of the one, appearing as the many, while remaining always the one. Blossoms, falling now like rain, like blessing, like the visible celebration of the invisible truth that is being recognized, remembered, returned to. Cover the ground, cover your lap, cover your hands, cover your heart with the purple petals of pure gift, of unearned grace, of the love that gives itself without reason, without condition, without end. You close your eyes and feel the teaching, the transmission, the recognition, moving through your being, not as information, but as transformation, not as knowledge, but as becoming, not as understanding, but as being, what you are, what you have always been, what you will always be, beneath all the stories, all the seeking, all the apparent journey toward what was never lost, never absent, never other than what you are. Opening your eyes, you find yourself still sitting against the jacaranda tree, still surrounded by the falling blossoms, still held by the morning light, still breathing the fragrant air. But now, everything has changed without changing. Everything has become what it always was. Everything has been recognized, remembered, returned to its source, its truth, its love. Shams, still present, though no longer visible, smiles. Through your own heart, laughs. Through your own joy, loves. Through your own being, the love that you are, that everything is, that has always been, will always be, the one, appearing as the many, playing as the world, loving as the universe, being as what you are, what everything is, what has always been, will always be. A tree, the blossoms, the light, the garden, the very air pulses with recognition, with celebration, with the joy of consciousness, recognizing itself in all its forms, in all its expressions, in all its infinite creativity, diversity, abundance, beauty, love. You sit in this recognition, in this celebration, in this joy, feeling the poem not as words, but as being, not as thought, but as truth, not as creation, but as revelation. Of what you are, what everything is, what has always been, will always be, beginning to stir, to move, to want, to need, to be expressed, shared, given to the world, to the beloved, to the one who appears as the many, who loves as the universe, who receives as what you are, what everything is, what has always been, will always be. The blossoms, still falling, still blessing, still celebrating, create a carpet, a mandala, a sacred space where the invisible becomes visible, where the formless takes form, where the eternal enters time, where the poem at last is ready to be born. Your eyelids grow heavy, soft as the falling petals, gentle as the morning breeze, carrying the peace of recognition, of understanding, of the love that you are, that everything is, that has always been, will always be. You drift, naturally, easily, into deep, restful sleep, where the teaching continues, where the recognition deepens, where the love grows stronger, where the poem, in the silence, in the stillness, in the space, between thoughts, between breaths, between heartbeats, prepares for its birth, its expression, its gift to the world, to the beloved, to the one who is what you are, what everything is, what has always been, will always be. Forever and ever in love. You wake, and this time there is no transition, no movement from sleep to waking, no gentle return to the world of forms. Instead, you find yourself already awake, already present, already fully here in the eternal now, where all poems, all revelations, all moments of truth exist simultaneously in the timeless space of pure awareness, of pure being, of pure love. The oil lamp, somehow, burns brighter than ever, its flame steady and golden, like the sun of the heart, like the light that never dims, like the illumination that reveals all things, as they truly are, as they have always been, as they will always be, expressions of the One, appearances of the Beloved. The chamber, transformed by the night's journey, no longer seems like a room, but like a sacred space, like a temple, like the heart of the universe, where the human and the divine, the finite and the infinite, the temporal and the eternal, meet and merge and become one breath, one heartbeat, one song, sung by the voice that has no voice, spoken by the silence that contains all words, written by the hand that writes without writing, in the book that has no pages, but holds all stories, all poems, all prayers, all tears, all laughter, all love. The walls, if they can still be called walls, seem to pulse with the rhythm of existence, with the heartbeat of the cosmos, with the breath of the beloved, and you realize that you are not separate from this pulsing, this breathing, this being, but that you are the pulse itself, the breath itself, the being itself, recognizing itself in the mirror of its own creation, in the reflection of its own light, in the echo of its own song. The ancient texts scattered around the chamber no longer appear as words on paper, but as living light, as dancing flames, as whispered secrets, revealed not to the mind, but to the heart, not to the seeker, but to the sought, not to the lover, but to the beloved, who has always been both the question and the answer, both the journey and the destination, both the poem and the poet, writing itself into existence through the ink of pure love on the parchment of eternity. And in this chamber, in this heart, in this moment, you understand that all the seeking, all the longing, all the yearning was not for something outside yourself, but for this recognition, this remembering, this return to what you have always been, to what you can never not be, to the love that is your true nature, the awareness that is your true home, the poem that you have always been, writing itself through the words of your existence, through the verses of your breath, through the stanzas of your heartbeat, in the great book of being, in the endless song of becoming, in the eternal dance of love, loving itself, through the form of you, through the dream of you, through the poem of you, awakening to itself, as itself, in itself, forever and always in the chamber of the poem where all separation dissolves, and only love remains, only truth remains, only this eternal, infinite, perfect moment of pure being, pure awareness, pure love, breathing as you, living as you, being as you, in the chamber where the poem writes itself, where the beloved meets the beloved, where the one recognizes the one in the mirror of the heart, in the reflection of the soul, the night slowly settles across the land. The sounds of the world begin to fade, and your mind is ready for rest. If this moment brought you peace, I'd be truly grateful if you give this video a like. And if you'd like to join us on more nighttime journeys, please subscribe and tap the bell icon. You deserve a peaceful sleep, a quiet mind, and a calm heart. Good night, and may your dreams be gentle and bright.